Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming to the morning session. Before we begin, I have some housekeeping rules. Please silence your phones. Photography of ABRF meeting session is permitted, subject to speaker's request not to capture pre-publication information. Recording of the program session will be available on the meeting website following the annual meeting. ABRF social policy, media policy is everything can be shared. If the speaker specifically asks you not to be shared, please respect the speaker. And do not post any social media. Hashtag for event is ABRF, hashtag ABRF 2026. Unless noted by the speaker, questions are to be held until end of the session. I think we will follow that for this session too. Attendees may ask questions at the microphone in the room because we are recording the session. If you have not done so, download the ABRF app to view full schedule, access to lightning talks, abstracts, and everything. It is your personalized meeting schedule. This year, we are starting with the ABRF year-round app, and we could even use it for the chapter meetings. And it also has information about the exhibit halls, tech showcases, along with resources for speakers and sponsors. All attendees will receive an overall meeting evaluation survey. That is important. I am part of the ABRF executive committee, at least until tomorrow. Therefore, we value your survey in deciding what kind of sessions we want to have in the future year. Please do fill out. And these are these announcements for starting today. There will be a poster session. There is a physical poster session at lunch at the exhibit hall. The people who are presenting the posters also will be there at the time. The therapy dogs will be there also during lunchtime. The therapy dogs will be here today and tomorrow at the exhibit hall. And also, in addition to that, we are going to have lightning talks that also a very fast few-minute talks. Please do come to encourage the people who are presenting the lightning talks. With that, I'm going to invite Werner Simon, part of our ABRF membership committee, to share some information about benefits of membership. Werner?
Hi, everyone. I want to hear more about the therapy dogs. So thank you very much for being here this morning, and I'm just going to do this quickly. We want to encourage people to be full members, either it's individual members, group members, or maybe even better yet, kind of the institutional membership. And the membership committee is one of the committees that you can join. If you're here, that kind of helps to boost membership, but also support the members in a variety of ways, giving information and helping people kind of get started in their ABRF journey. So. The membership committee kind of internally, but then also supplies it externally, provides the metrics on the membership itself, kind of where people are coming from, who's represented around the country, what kind of work people do, things like that. We help to implement programs to kind of keep people in ABRF and keep them happy and continue to give you what you are asking for, what you need. There is outreach support that you can always talk to or be in touch with members of the executive committee. We are kind of a go-between often, but that way at least people know that they're being heard, that if you have concerns or if you have questions about anything, you can always talk to the membership committee. We can convey this information to ABRF staff, things like this. And then we have our committee meetings typically on the fourth Wednesday of every month from 2 to 3 p.m. But we always get a heads-up invitation to let you know if there's going to be a change in that, something like that. So our activities, there's the quarterly membership orientation. That orientation is really specifically for new members, although anybody can join it. It's a Zoom call. And I should say that the monthly membership meetings are, of course, Zoom calls as well, because we're all over the country. But yeah, the quarterly meeting, it's an orientation meeting for new members. Anybody can join it, but it's just for folks to kind of get an idea for what happens in ABRF. And so we present slides and information kind of regularly that just explain what ABRF is, what ABRF does, and then how people can really be a part of it more actively. We can help you connect with colleagues from different, technologies. So whatever your focus is, we can find somebody who also does something similar or does the exact same thing, and has some information for you that you can kind of network with that person and get some information from them. There are ways that we can, we hope, help you to raise your kind of career, advance your career, raise your professional profile, kind of help you to find ways to further develop, again, by connecting you with other people through networking. And we do have, there's a separate kind of peer mentorship group, but we have kind of smaller peer mentorship conversations that we also hold every third Tuesday, the third Tuesday of every month. And that's kind of just for open general discussion. People might have questions about how do I do this? Who do I talk to about that? Something within ABRF, but sometimes there are questions that are a little bit more challenging. Like, I have a supervisor that, doesn't respect the work that I do. How do I talk to him about this? And those kinds of things. So actually there's some really good information that people get out of those smaller kind of peer mentoring sessions. So some of the things that you can find on the website, and some of the things that we encourage that everybody check out. You'll also get kind of emails from them if you're a part of not just our committee, but in general part of ABRF. You can get the news updates and communications. That's the tall one there, and the ABRF update monthly, and then also newsletters like the research, membership matters newsletters. This one is about Research America. These are both from March, the kind of late March letters. So you'll get these kinds of updates. They pop up in your email. You can also find them on the website, so that way you can always go back and reference them just to see what they're talking about, kind of get an idea. And there's always information about the chapters, so things happening in all of the chapters as well. And I think that's really all. If anybody has any questions, you can certainly come and find me. I'm kind of wandering around. I'm here and there. Like I said, again, my name is Verna Simon, so you can check in with me. You can find me on the app. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Verna. As I said, we are going to have myself and Craig and Josh, we are going to talk about the what we call out of the silo into the future. Basically, this is how the core facilities beyond biological core facilities. And I'm just waiting for my first slide to show up, and then, oh, there you go. Okay, my name is Somasundaram. I run a single crystal X-ray crystallographic core. I'm one of the odd person out in this one, and there are very few structural biologists here. I come from Florida State University at Tallahassee, Florida, and I'm going to share some of the things I think how ABRF can help the process along. We are going beyond biological core facilities, and also going to share some of the shared resource people like you could help. And this is my outline of my talk. I'm going to talk a little bit about the ABRF's role, a little bit about the shared research resources role, and some example based on my own personal experience. And Craig and Josh will expand on this. As you know, the pie chart on the screen shows the current makeup of ABRF members self-identified. As you can see, there's a large portion of you are coming from genomics and flow and imaging and bioinformatics. As you see, this is a large amount of its basically biological core facilities, biological shared resources. However, you see a small slice like other. Our intention is, and ABRF is also wanting to follow this, to grow this, the other 7% so that the representation of the core facilities at ABRF will be more uniform. The reason you all know the problems core facilities face are similar whether you are a material scientist, whether an environmental scientist, physical scientist, biological scientist, running the core such a way that it's beneficial to your users. Problems like how do you deal with the customers, how do you get the service contract and funding. I don't have to say, right? You all know. They are all the same. Therefore, what we are trying to see is whether we can expand the membership beyond the predominantly biological and medical core facilities. And the way in which I see the pie chart on the left shows the roles the current ABRF members play. And you know, this is even though you self-select as a director, you probably play more than one role. You're probably a director and a staff scientist, or you're a faculty and a staff scientist, or you're technologist and a researcher. Therefore, we play multiple roles. However, this is the role of the current makeup or self-identified by ABRF members. And the slide and the chart on the right shows how ABRF as an organization has grown in the last 78 years. As you see, in around 2018, we are around 664 members, made up of mostly of core directors and core administrators. Around 2020, we have introduced what is called, as Verna referred to as the institutional group membership, whereby everybody in your institution or in your group of core facility became member of ABRF. What it meant is we not only grew the number of people in ABRF, we also brought in a lot of new people like the technologists, early career members, mid-career members. You do not have to be a core facility director to be a member of ABRF. That means we brought in a lot of new people into that. And also, you see, the benefit is also shown in the top line. That means the ABRF is doing something correct because we are getting a 98 to 99% of the people who are members who want to come back to ABRF because they see the benefit of ABRF. We like that, and that is one of the reasons we are able to grow. This growth opportunity is what we probably ABRF should utilize, because once you become a member, your institution becomes a member of ABRF, it does not matter what kind of core facility you run, right? We can benefit, everybody could benefit from this. This is helped by, we have national meeting, which you are all attending here, and also we have 6 chapters throughout the geographic area of the US. That is usually a very intimate, very small meeting, which is usually situated in a university in one of this region. That means when we go there, people from all core facility can come and attend the meeting. It doesn't matter. It's very easy to come because this is locally there, and the registration fees are very nominal, and that we can reach out to those people. ABRF could help, and those people can benefit from the ABRF resources available. In addition to that, we are member of what is called Research America. The other concurrent session, the director of Research America is talking about how this is going on, how ABRF can get benefit from Research America. Sorry, we are competing with them, but it's okay. And also the other side, you see about 42 of the 50 top institutions where ABRF compass is funded by NSF. 48 of the 50 institution where ABRF members, current members come from is funded by NIH and the American Association of University. You see, that means we are there everywhere. Our members are there, ABRF is there. We should leverage this membership so that we can expand and give the benefit to the members. This not only benefits the ABRF, by increased membership, also benefits the members. What like what Verna was talking about, all the benefits a membership gives to you will be beneficial to them too. And with that, I'm going to switch a little bit how shared research resource people like us could help in this process. As you all know, if you're applying for a NIH S10 grant and NSF MRI grant, the first thing they're asking is, how this is going to help how many more people, whether it is a multidisciplinary, how many faculty, students are going to help. The more you show how multidisciplinary your instrument is going to be, the success of you getting the funding is very high, right? We all know that. When we write grants, we specify this. That is exactly what we want to do too. I mean, we are going to increase the reach out to other departments. I come from Florida State University, where we have this EIEG program, Equipment and Enhancement Grant, Infrastructure Enhancement, and we also started something called a LEAP, Large Equipment and Enhancement Program. This is a $200,000 program. That's a $500,000 program, where the first thing they see, how many departments you have collaborators as, how many multidisciplinary people your instrument will help. This is already there. We are already there. Therefore, we want to use this so that we can collaborate. The other factors, which is directly not in our control, cores are getting consolidated. That means you end up with shared resources, end up with new equipment. That means the users you have never encountered before are going to come to this consolidated core. It benefits both the shared resource people like us and the users who are coming, and all of a sudden they are seeing new equipment, which they have never seen before, and the shared resource person sees new equipment because they have been asked to take care. Therefore, we can combine these two so that we can help the new users coming to it. Hey, look, you may be doing this experiment. There are other equipment which could be helpful. The researcher may not even know that other equipment can help, which is we have seen many times, and then we will actually expand this. And the other one is centralization, which is happening many of the institutions now, where many instruments are in one place. Therefore, you may have a multitude of spectrometers, multitude of microscopes, which may be specializing in biology and material science in one place. Therefore, you not only see the users of the other discipline come there, and then the shared resource person can learn new things and then expand their knowledge and giving back to the users, which the technology and platform they may not be familiar with. And that is the point I want to emphasize here. And with that, I am going to switch over to a little bit some examples I want to show. And these are very simple examples which I have myself encountered. It may not be the only thing we could do, but I just want to share some of them. I started my career in my PhD building a spectrometer in a predominantly material science department. It is called a photoacoustic spectrometer. I was working in India. My PI had an idea to build, and at the time it was not commercially available. We built it and started characterizing materials, because it was possible for you to study opaque samples. After my PhD, I went on to go to a postdoctoral fellowship, where by then the commercial instruments were available. They were using for biological. That's one of the reasons I went to there, because I knew the technology, and you wanted to use it in biology. That's one of the perfect examples. And then for my postdoctoral experience, I actually ended up building a high-pressure gas equipment to study membranes. Therefore, I basically switched from material science or analytical chemistry to biology. That's my personal experience. This was very beneficial to me when I came to Florida State, and I started working in 1993 in the macromolecular crystallography facility at Florida State. For about 20 years, I worked there, and all of a sudden, the chemistry department had somebody retire from their powder diffraction. I'm seeing only one of the equipment there. He was planning to retire. The department could not find somebody quickly, and they said, Soma, you have some experience in running crystallography. Could you do that? I was mortified because I didn't know how to do this, but this person was kind enough to show me. For about 6 months, we overlapped, and then I started managing for about 3 years. This is the only one of the equipments, powder crystallography equipment for material science and chemistry department. Then they finally hired somebody. This is a cross-training, I think. May not happen to all of us, but it could. Could probably happen when you have a core consolidation or core centralization of core. That was beneficial. I was able to retain my job, and I was able to help the department so that they can benefit my already paid employee. And this is a small 2 examples I'm going to share with you. I come from an Institute of Molecular Biophysics. Our major emphasis in biology, biophysics, and then we have what is called physical biochemistry facility. We have a circular dichroism equipment, and our main focus in biological samples. About 4 years ago, it is run by my friend at my institute, somebody came, hey, look, we want to buy another instrument, but that company actually makes a material science solid sample. Could we buy that? Could you use it? We are more than happy. The bottom of the picture shows what our sample holder looked like, and then we bought the material science sample. They bought the material science sample holder. We swapped it. Now we could run material science samples on our biology-focused instrument. Similarly, chemistry people came with a magnetic circular dichroism sample holder. They could be swapped within few hours. We not only gained new users, they get benefited from not paying to buy a new equipment. We do not have to have a duplicated equipment, but we are able to do this. This is one example where we could adapt if we could. And the second one is very similar. We have a dynamic light scattering equipment, which we focus mostly on biological samples, because that's what our department does. And people from polymer science and then chemistry approached us. I think in this case, we didn't have to change the adapter. We had to buy a new kind of software or something so that we can use. This, once again, is another example. I'm going to be, this is similar example, microthermal calorimeter. We are biological samples. College of Medicine want to study some binding of small molecules to a drug target. We could do that too. These are the 3 small examples I showed you. If you have equipment which can be adaptable to some other technology, we could do. The last thing I'm going to share with you are a couple of examples. In Florida State University, when the students come to do the graduate studies, they have about a month of time before they officially start their classes. During that time, what we have is called Core Facility Boot Camp, where the students come to my facility, spend about 4 to 5 hours learning how to set up a crystal. Then in the afternoon, they go off to another core facility and they study how to set up a protein purification. Then the next day, they go to a mass spectrometry facility. Next day, they go to an electron microscopy facility. 3 or 4 days, they come back, continue what they set up. During the 3 weeks, they are able to go through 6 to 8 core facilities, what they do. And then they learn the platform, they learn about the instruments we have. They may not end up working in any of these technologies, any of this instrument, but at least they know. After running this program for 11 years, we realized the new graduate students sometimes pick their rotation based on what experience they had at the core facility. Therefore, as shared resource people, if this can be, my unit pays for the consumables, right? My time is free because I'm a state employee. Therefore, that way, we are introducing the technology and platform which they may not be familiar with. This is an opportunity for us to expand beyond this. Same thing, this FSU Shadow, where I invite undergraduate students to spend with me 4 hours every three times a semester, during spring break, during summertime, during the fall break. They stay with me for a whole day. I select about 4 students. They are undergraduate students. Mostly they are seniors or juniors. These people may not end up using your core, but at least they know what a core person does. This is one of the education which we have been talking about in a couple of talks before. This is the way we can expand. The last thing I'm going to show is I'm trying to get the undergraduate research opportunity program in Florida State, where we can take a senior undergraduate student 2 semesters. This is not yet done, that's why I'm not showing it here. They could rotate through all the core facility, and you get credit for being the PI. Obviously, I cannot give a 10-hour every week for 2 semesters to a student, but my vision is to have all the 6 or 8 core facilities, they will rotate through. They may be staying with me 2 weeks. Then all of us get credit for the work we have done. That way, we are introducing to the student what every core does, and this way we are reaching out to all the technologies and platforms. With that, I am going to, as we said at the beginning, we are going to hold the questions at the end, and I'm going to ask Craig to come and continue the conversation. Thank you very much.
Hi, everyone. First, I'd like to thank SOMA for inviting me to talk today. I'd also like to thank the organizers. It's been a great meeting. I'm kind of late career person, and I've had interactions previously with ABRF, but the meeting's kind of making me regret that I wasn't more involved with ABRF. And I'm going to go back to Penn State and encourage my younger colleagues to definitely engage. So just a little brief history about me. I've been working in the core facilities at Penn State for nearly 25 years. I started out as a one-man shop running a microarray facility. That facility merged with another to form the genomics core. I eventually became the director of the genomics core facility for a number of years, but my role right now is that I'm the director of core facilities within the Huck Institutes of the Life Sciences. So I oversee 11 core facilities at University Park. So my goals for the presentation today are just to describe what the Huck does, and identify some factors that we believe are important in promoting interdisciplinary research at Penn State. And then I'm going to provide an example of successful interdisciplinary research. And like Mark said in the plenary talk, we don't claim to have all the answers. I just hope the talk will be successful if you can take a little piece of something we do and find that useful. So what are the Huck Institutes of the Life Sciences? This is our official mission statement and research themes. I'll let you read that. In my mind, this is what happens when you let a committee come up with something like this. But if you went and asked each of the directors of the Huck, I think our real mission is very simple. It's to support interdisciplinary life science research wherever we find it on the Penn State campus. It's really as simple as that. That's our overarching mission. Okay, so how does the Huck support interdisciplinary life science research? First of all, through faculty. So the Huck will sponsor co-hire. So if we have a new faculty member who's coming on board whose research interest may span multiple areas, the Huck will provide those departments with some salary support for a number of years for that faculty member to encourage hiring of people with interdisciplinary interests. The same thing with chairs. So once an investigator has established a successful presence in interdisciplinary research space, the Huck will also provide endowed chairs to those faculty members. We support research, of course, directly. So we have a number of institutes and centers. And the institutes and centers are really affinity groups for faculty to gather who have common research interests and to promote, gather and discuss and promote those research interests. We also have seed grants. Josh, I think, is going to talk about that, so I won't say anything more about that, but we do have seed grant programs. And one of the things I'm going to mention now might be a little bit out of place, but I forgot to put it on my slide, was we use Huck Bucks, and I think some other people talked about similar things. We call them Huck Bucks, which is money that's provided in startups to Huck co-hires, and that credit can be used only in our core facilities at University Park. So obviously that's a strong inducement for people to use our cores, and we like to think that once we've got them using our cores that way, we've got a customer for life. Shared resources, we have 11 core facilities. I'm going to talk about more detail in a moment, and that's what I manage. And then finally, graduate programs. I'm just going to mention that very briefly. I can't get up here and talk about our graduate programs. It's not my area of expertise, but if you're interested, please go to our website and take a look, because we do support interdisciplinary graduate programs. Those programs, the students don't apply to a particular department. They apply to the program. The program involves faculty that are in, I believe, 12 different departments. But if you're interested in that, again, take a look on the website. Okay, so just a little bit of an overview on our core facilities. So we have 11 core facilities. We house about $50 million in instrumentation. We have 26 scientific faculty and staff appointments, 12 PhDs. These are non-tenure line research faculty. We have about 200 years experience in Huck core facilities. We had some discussion in the last days about attracting and keeping talent. I'm very proud of the fact that a lot of our people have been long-term employees of our cores. I know all of you are doing the same thing and trying to attract people who want to have a core facilities career. They're not just doing it because they couldn't get another job somewhere else. But we've done a very good, I think we've done a very good job with that. We have people that have stayed with us a long time. Tomorrow, when I go back to work, we have a person retiring in our microscopy core that's been working with us since the late 90s, and she's just a tremendous resource. We've contributed to over 400 publications. I learned the other day in the talk about metrics that that's I never heard this term before, a vanity metric. 400 publications is approximate, because obviously those are hard to track. I'm going to talk about how we're trying to solve that going forward. Lastly, we have about, and I don't think this is a vanity metric, we have about 800 unique users from about 300 laboratories annually. And we're very proud of that number because it's been a constant number. Probably over the last decade, we're very, very close to that average annually. So we have a good, large, solid base of customers. I'm not going to go through all of our core facilities. You can take a look at this. The bottom line is that we have a broad range of technologies and applications, right? We go everything from our CSL bearing fermentation facility and our Sartorius cell culture facility all the way down in scale to cryo-EM and X-ray crystallography. So we really can support interdisciplinary research within the life sciences really well. Okay, administrative structure. So this seems kind of boring. Who wants to talk about administrative structure? But I believe that administrative structure is an important factor in our success in supporting interdisciplinary research. So again, I'm a member of the Huck Institutes of the Life Sciences, and Josh, who's going to speak in a moment, is a member of the Material Research Institute. Neither of our institutes is part of a department or a college. Our institute directors report directly to the Office of the Senior Vice President for Research, and the OSVPR reports directly to the president. Soma's warned me that some of you are not big fans of centralized control of core facilities, but I'll just put out there, this is the only model that I've ever worked under, and I really wouldn't call it centralized control. It's really, in my view, it's centralized support. Our budget comes from OSVPR, but the institute directors are really left to their own devices on how they're going to spend that money to accomplish their missions. Okay, so one of the, a recent, I think, a great success that's connected with this administrative structure. All of you, we've talked about it in the last day about the difficulty with authorship and acknowledgement of the work that's done in all of our core facilities. Well, we finally, I think, have tackled this problem at Penn State. So we formed a committee of people that were comprised of involved in core facilities under the OSVPR. We came up with some guidelines. We then proposed those guidelines to our Vice President for Research. He approved the guidelines and he's published them. This is making a very big difference. I think we only did this about 6 months ago, we got this accomplished. But it's already having a large impact because we're not an individual core that's come up with a guideline. We're not even an individual group of cores that's come up with a guideline. We have one guideline now for all the cores under OSVPR, and this is very powerful. I think it's empowered my core directors to be a little bit more aggressive about authorship and acknowledgement, because the bottom line is if you're a faculty member and you don't agree with the guideline, our answer now is we'll take it up with the Senior Vice President for Research. This is not my policy. It's his guideline. One thing I threw on here too, and I heard some mention of it in the last day, but if you're not using RRID, I encourage you to check out the RRID site. That's really valuable. We weren't aware of it till about 2 or 3 years ago, so we're early on in our use of it, but I think it's really a game changer in our ability to track, especially acknowledgement. And so here's actually some quotes that I thought actually you'd all enjoy in our actual guideline. Payment for research services or staff assistance does not discharge investigators from their responsibility to consider core staff for authorship. And then acknowledgement, I also like our acknowledgement statement because really we hammer home the idea that at a minimum, every usage of our core facility needs to be acknowledged. And I think now we're starting to see people come to a better understanding of both of these concepts. Okay, in the Huck cores, we have an equal access policy. And I think this is really perhaps the most important part that enables us to do what we do, which is no matter what department, what college, what campus you're from, you get the same pricing, the same priority, the same equal access as anyone else. And I think this policy is easy for us to follow because of the administrative structure we were in. If we were housed in a department or a college, we'd certainly be under a lot of pressure to provide either better pricing or better service, faster service, whatever, to members of those units. But since we don't answer to the departments or colleges, our goal is to support everyone, and our money flows directly from the top. This policy, I think, is obvious, and it's easy to support. Another advantage of our structure is it's allowed us physical proximity. So the building you see pictured there is the Millennium Science Complex, and my office is in the right wing of that, so that's where the Huck Institute has research, and Josh's office is in the left wing of that, which houses a lot of material science research. So we've brought these groups into proximity. I can walk from my office to Josh's in a minute, maybe. And it really does. I mean, for years people say, oh, you bring people together, they're gonna interact more, but it's true. It really does happen. Like, again, our physical proximity has allowed Josh and I to kick around a lot of ideas with shared problems, even though our technologies are very different, right? Yeah, and actually in the basement of this building, both his materials characterization lab and some of our core facilities, our microscopy and cryo-EM facilities, are immediately adjacent to each other in a vibration-free space. Education. So recently we've begun a course I'm very excited about. This is the first semester we've offered a Modern Methods in Biological Research course, which is an overview of the technologies and applications that we support in the Huck. This course is team taught by our 11 core facility directors. Right now it's a lecture-based course. We're hoping to add a hands-on component to that, but that's open to everyone. Another thing that we're very excited about, and partially came about from discussions with Josh, is we're now sponsoring a graduate assistantship program in the Corps. So in this semester we have 4 graduate assistants, and that's going to be ongoing now, 4 per semester, 20 hours per week. These grad students are post-comprehensive exam. They've had some previous experience with the Corps, but the idea of the graduate assistantship is so that they can take a deeper dive into the technologies and applications that they're interested in. And at the same time, because they already do have some experience with the Corps, they're able to give something back to us, either through working on a special project that the Corps needs to complete, or actually working on other customers' projects that are in different, slightly different areas than their own. Okay, I think I'm going to, in the interest of time, I'm going to skip this example and just go to my second example. So this is an example of a success in interdisciplinary research. This is actually, I think, our shining example. So Malik Demirel is a professor, an engineering professor, who has an interest in materials. He wants to develop new materials with unique properties that are both sustainable and environmentally friendly. And one of those that's highlighted here is a squid protein. He cloned a piece of a squid structural protein and found that by regulating the number of repetitive elements he had in this protein, he could modulate the structural properties of the protein that he produced. So Malik is a great example of the support the Huck provides for interdisciplinary research, because when he was hired, he was a Huck faculty co-hire. So he received initial salary support from the Huck to encourage his research. His research over the years has extensively involved core facilities both in the Huck and in the materials characterization lab that Josh runs. And then finally now that he's a senior well-established investigator, very successful, he's actually the Penn State Lloyd and Dorothy Huck Chair Professor in Biomimetic Materials. So we've really feel we've enabled his research right from the beginning all the way through his career. And finally, just to summarize, I mean, I think it's not the only answer, but I do think our centralized structure helps siloing. And just so you know, too, we're Penn State. We are Penn State. And also, when things go wrong, we say we are Penn State. We don't have a uniform model for this. So while there are a lot of core facilities within the structure that Josh and I work in under OSVPR, there are core facilities that still reside in Penn State in individual departments or colleges. So, but anyway, so we think, though, that in general, the centralized structure helps reduce the siloing. It's really just, there's better awareness of the capabilities we each have. I'm 100% confident that if I was housed within a department or college, I would not even be aware of Josh. I wouldn't be up here talking today because it was through Josh's connection to Soma that I was invited. So, and again, we share all the same problems, so I've benefited a lot from my interactions with Josh. We've direct support for faculty involved in interdisciplinary research has again, benefited everyone. And our core facility equal access policies, I think, are key. I'm surprised when I run across colleagues at other institutions that don't have, where you have something in a facility that's housed in a department that's not available to everybody. I mean, that's just, I don't understand it. I mean, if it's used at max, that's fine, but if it's not, how can you not be welcoming to everybody else? Open educational opportunities, and then finally is just, the result of all of these policies and administrative structures is that I think we do a really good job at Penn State of enabling interdisciplinary research utilizing core facilities. And Josh is up next.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Josh Stapleton with the Materials Characterization Lab at Penn State. And what I really want to try to highlight today is what I would argue are sort of a lot of plays that core staff or even core leadership can make. I mean, unless you're incredibly influential and have major bank, you're probably not going to go back to your university and convince them to build interdisciplinary institutes or a several $100 million building to bring people together. But I want to share some things kind of from our playbook at the core facility level. Pleasure to be here. This is maybe the third time I've been invited to ABRF as almost a freak sideshow materials guy. This group is very welcoming. I appreciate that. I realize we're now 40 minutes in, so if you need to plank, do push-ups, jumping jacks to get the blood flowing, feel free to do that. I can see nothing. There's so much light scattering off my eyelashes right now that I can kind of see my slides. Okay, so this is the lab that I'm a part of. I'm not going to go into any instrument or technique, but want to just convey that we've got a big user community at Penn State, somewhere north of 1,200 users, 45 different departments, about 120 external organizations that are industry, occasionally government, and other academia, $35 million worth of stuff, but it's really the people that makes all of this happen. And frequently, what I tell folks, Craig highlighted equal access policy, and I think what you'll kind of get from my talk is this is really what I'm talking about. Every time I'm giving a faculty candidate a tour, I reiterate again and again, nobody's checking your ID at the door. I'm not going to be like, oh, you're from ecosystems management, not materials. Well, thanks for coming by, but you can't use our toys or access our experts. So I believe core facilities have an enormous opportunity to improve science, improve sharing, in some cases reduce expenditures and increase quality at universities. This we do have in common. It's the magicians, the people that are really passionate about educating, solving problems, hearing what that weird weird because it's not in your wheelhouse challenges from a different discipline and saying, I wonder how my analytical expertise can help solve this problem. I'm really fortunate to have a super solid group of folks that are generally curious. This is another key thing that as I meet core facilities people, different disciplines, geographically, they tend to really care about sharing, helping people, educating, and they're curious folks. And so these are massive assets that I would argue every university desperately needs more of you as they're trying to evolve and be successful in the future. So why leave the silo? So there was something about, go to the future, get out of the silo. I don't need to pontificate on waste in academia, on structures that isolate, that limit sharing. But I'll go way back. I'm feeling older and older. I remember when this publication was new. National Academies put something out that's like, hey, convergence. We're gonna name interdisciplinary science. And I'm not gonna read any of this. You've probably already read it. But in a nutshell, I pulled out a couple of highlights. Integrated expertise, hubs for connecting disciplines, shared language. And since I've been in my position at Penn State as a core leader since 2011, 12-ish. I was a core staff member for about 6 years before that. I look at those bolded words and I'm like, well, that's MCL. Like, that's a core facility. Like, we're the place. We can be the hub. We convene people. We talk to people that are different than us. We try to break down language barriers that maybe our colleagues in departments like to speak, their secret languages. And so I'll share an event here in a moment where I am constantly reiterating to people to be like, I'm like average intelligence level at best. So I need you to talk to me in a way that like I understand the words coming out of your mouth. And frequently, if things get boiled down to structure, chemistry, property, which I realize is very generic, I can kind of start to orient my mind around like, oh yeah, we've got a thing in our lab. So if you need a science motivator, this was something NAS put out. NSF adopted this as one of their big ideas, which they shelved at some point in the past couple of years. But if you dig into some of the language and proposals and things like that and calls, it's not going away. The reality is the world is becoming more interdisciplinary. And this was just one of the prods early on for me that hooked me. So just a little bit of proof that it does indeed work. This is not a curated selection of publications that involve my staff, but it's just a representation of who thought that we'd be looking at eggshells. I never thought I'd have a publication on imitation cheese. So I'm a surface interface chemist. I was like, cheese, like people even study cheese? Like I love cheese, but I didn't know you actually studied it. Geologists that literally bring buckets of slime from a cave in Italy, and they're like, hey, we're curious about sulfur, and what's the state of sulfur, and how do you measure this? So on and so forth. And so these are, apologies about that, these are just examples, after the fact, after a couple of years, where we've tried to create this culture of, yeah, come talk to us. And so core folks have a huge role in creating the right culture to break down the silos. So this is just kind of a bullet point list. We try to be engaging. We try to help people understand what is the question you're trying to actually answer. Like, don't just bring me the publication from University X and say, I want to do that. I mean, you can do that, but like, give us, a few minutes of your time and describe to us what's the problem you're trying to solve. Frequently, cores are a great place to reiterate that safety actually matters in academia, and you might not want to get on a bus with that sample ever again, or you should really use that in a fume hood. And so, again, just stuff that we put out there. Understanding, like, are you interested in exploring a technique once, and it's really going to be a better use of resources to, like, leverage the core people? Or is this like a technique that your group uses weekly and you need to get trained? I would say particularly in my lab, as we're trying to cross the aisle, blend the science, I'll rattle off an acronym and then I'll walk it back and be like, oh, that's right. Like, you guys don't speak that language. You really don't want to get anybody trained. But what about if we collect some preliminary data, interpret it, and then sit down and tell you what it means you now have the opportunity to be like, that's garbage or really expensive, we don't need it, or wow, this is incredible. We should integrate this technique into kind of future studies in our facility. Other thing that we do is really right at the front door, try to make it easy. I don't beg, but I encourage very frequently. If you go to our webpage, actually I don't know what it is, Penn State MCL, one of the buttons you can click is Start Using MCL. I'm frequently like, please click Don't Know, let's discuss, because then it's our job. I actually get these, myself and my associate director get these tickets. We have a ticketing system for requests, but we do the work to figure out like, oh, they're studying imitation cheese, and what they really want to know is spatially how's the protein distributed. They should probably talk to our spectroscopy group. So we do the work of like making the connection so that they're not in an awkward situation trying to figure out what language to speak and how to engage with our facility. The other thing that we have, right, these are literally our 3 options on our main page, is request a technical talk. Seems maybe old-fashioned, but in my world, our most successful plays these days have everything to do with in-person and face-to-face. It scales terribly. Penn State is enormous, but you know, I could send out like a test email and the last sentence be, we're going to give you $300,000. My guess is like a 5% open rate. And of the 5% that open it, I might have 3 PIs that read till the end and be like, oh, you're the lucky winner. You read the whole email. So like, it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work in the modern age. Faculty are so overwhelmed with administrative burden. Even if they wanted to probably read your whole email, they're not going to. So I try to make it really easy and say, invite us, like 15 minutes. We're not going to bore you with first principle calculations and Diffie-Q and all this stuff that's going to put you to sleep. We're going to give you talks that show applications of the technique. Events, we also do run one particularly interesting larger scale event. This came out of the core facilities. This is a weekly event, 2 10-minute talks. We asked people to introduce themselves. This only freaked out the senior faculty when we started this about 14 years ago. They were like, wait, you want me to talk about myself? And I was like, yeah, like we're trying to build community. It's literally talk about yourself, provide info on one thing that your group is doing. And then the other thing that also kind of got attention early on was like, also say where you need help. And it's like, wait, hold on, like I'm not sure we're trained to talk about where we need help. Like we're supposed to be super successful, professing in these areas, experts in all things. And it's like, no, this is a venue where not infrequently, and my very last slide I'm going to show you came out like one example of what happens when you kind of get interdisciplinary people in a room where the goal is community building. We happen to use science. Also, we get really good coffee at this event, not like the crap that our campus serves in their catering units, but like in-town coffee that's delicious. It's worth the couple $100 that we spend a week to get groups of people together to talk about science. Other events over the past many years, all initiated out of the materials characterization lab. I'm not reiterating that for credit purposes. I'm reiterating that to say that I think cores have a major opportunity to promote really good ideas up, and it's not always about like we need more money. It's about here's some ideas about how to build research angles on campus. Everything from, we drove down to well, it doesn't matter, but our medical campus is 90 miles away. We had a road show. We went down there. We gave a bunch of lightning talks to a bunch of doctors, introduced a variety of analytical techniques. We've hosted stuff sort of at University Park, which is the campus where Craig and I are. That's about, this common vision was one of the catchy things that we called it a few years back, and it was all about introducing techniques in a way that like the life sciences community understands what they do. And I would say these were reasonably successful, not gangbusters, but this is also part of what I feel like my job is, keep trying again and again and again and again. This is probably the only slide that I would argue it's hard to make this happen from the bottom up, because at Penn State, across our interdisciplinary ecosystem, we have these institutes that Craig mentioned. My guess is they collectively put $3.5 to $5 million a year on the table just for Penn Staters to compete. But if you look at the topics, and down at the bottom, you wouldn't know this, but I'm highlighting where there's a strong encouragement, at least in my organization, for core facilities people to team up with faculty, where they need to integrate in new analytical techniques, or they could integrate in new analytical techniques to their research projects. So I would say almost every year for the past 5 years, I've had at least one staff member that's been a co-PI on these seed grants with sort of tenure line folks across various communities. So you can see one of my staff that runs our microscopy facility is the lower left, teaming up with some microscopists, microscopy-driven faculty in the life sciences. And the other one on the lower right was we had a faculty member kind of going into a very challenging analytical space in battery science. That one's carbon capture. Same techniques, actually the same group. So this individual helped actually develop a new analytical technique to make some key characterization. Lastly, within, and actually this activity came out of ABRF 3 years ago. I met a new colleague, Ashley Montgomery at Texas A&M. She was describing how they get their core facilities people together, and that's another way to sort of spread the good news. And so over the past 2 years, there's been a grassroots effort of core facilities people at Penn State getting together, exchanging ideas, exchanging challenges, and this is I think this is going to be like a new superpower for us at Penn State, because the more the core facility people understand what the other ones can do in a relational, interesting way, not in a, my boss never came and said, I have to talk to Craig, and I know his boss never said that Craig had to talk to me, but the folks that work in our organizations, finding reasons for them to get together and talk shop, have coffee, I think this is going to be super powerful moving forward as we sort of grow things at the grassroots level. Other thing is effort. I put in a lot of effort trying to make it obvious that we are here to support faculty. We want to get involved in funding programs. When I first started, I would say it wasn't infrequent that I would get a surprise like, oh, we were written into a proposal and we're responsible for running this? Like, what the heck? That's been a long time. And now, 2 examples. One's kind of ancient, but I didn't even know what an S10 was other than maybe a really old Chevy pickup truck. And I was like, instrumentation, like what? So long story short, one of the folks in my lab was the PI on this S10 that bio people needed in atomic force microscopy because they needed the technique, but they didn't understand anything about it. The other one, literally this award just happened 2 weeks ago. Penn State, an instrumentation award around kind of future nuclear materials efforts. And we were included in this simply because of all of the effort that we put into talking to faculty about this is how you integrate core facilities into proposals. Like, don't surprise us with, keep doing that, with proposals, and include us in the beginning. And so we've been really successful there. The other thing, quotes from students, new faculty, department heads. I mean, I intentionally picked some that you might think don't jive with the materials characterization lab, but people know that we're interested in helping them. And so very frequently, we get asked to support grad recruitment. We get asked to support faculty recruitment in other areas. And then my last example, back in 2019, we had a postdoc give a presentation on antibiotic resistance. I didn't understand most of what she was talking about. I'm a chemist. To get to the last slide, and I see this thing on the screen, and I was like, she kept saying antibiotic, 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 and I was like, yeah, no, no, that's what's in your water softener. That's a commodity polymer. I go up to her afterwards. Turns out we're both right, and I was like, wow, that's an antibiotic. Fast forward 3 years later, because of this interdisciplinary event where people are using, or trying to spur up conversations about where they need help, it actually created a whole new functional kind of research group on campus with polymer folks, with infectious disease people, and this is at least one of the papers that they put out. And so, interestingly enough, this research group was actually the research group of the individual that's now our VP for research at Penn State. And so he very much drinks the Kool-Aid, supports the collaborative aspects of core facilities at Penn State, and how their sharing well can enable some really exciting science. And so that's all I've got. Soma, I guess you're back in charge in terms of how we're going to take Q&A, but appreciate your time and attention.
Thank you. Since we are recording the session, if you have a question, please come to the mic, and if you want to individually ask us questions, it'll be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Soma, Greg, and Josh, for this wonderful initiative that we are talking at ABRF. It was very interesting to listen to you all. As you have mentioned in your presentations, in our life sciences course, we see a lot of people who have migrated from, say, Department of Engineering or physics and working in flow cytometry or microscopy course like that. How can ABRF make this more structured instead of these interdisciplinary things happening by accident? How can we support and engage students early on in their careers during their undergrad and graduate studies and make ABRF more of a support for them?
Shekhar, thank you. I think as Josh mentioned, we started this maybe 1 or 2 years ago, this initiative. I think as you see, even though it's a Monday morning session, there are a lot of people here. I think there's a general shared interest. As I shared in the beginning of my talk, ABR is in a unique